Good morning. Good morning. Hey, it's Coach G. Good morning on this beautiful fall day. It is a good time to be alive, right? Hoping that you are well. Whew. It has just been a week. A week where we can do what? I'm going to encourage you. Celebrate. If we were to get caught up in what we see in the news, if we were to get caught up in how our feelings were hurt, if we were to get caught up in how we feel like we haven't gotten all of our tasks done, we would not truly be living out our purpose, right? Our purpose is not to get consumed by the nots, the can'ts, the ain'ts, the won'ts. But let's try to remain positive. Now, I just put this on my own laptop because I can get caught up. Good morning, good morning. I can get caught up in the minutia. And that does not do me or anyone else well. So I figured I would share with you that it's best for us to celebrate the wins. Share something that you can celebrate. I already said it's a great day to be alive. I'm in my home. We had some work done in our home. I won't get into the details, but there was, something that caused, we had to have some workers come in and do some asbestos abatement. If you know anything about that, you don't want asbestos in your home, right? And so what I didn't know about abatement is that they cut off the AC and the heat. And so, we're preparing our minds, we're getting ready. And, that was the warmest night we've had since summer. So when I woke up, I was like, oh, snap! Like, we're going to celebrate. We made it, right? We did not, it could have been, and of course the next night was freezing, but the work was done. So let's focus on celebrating, okay? I'm Coach G, if you don't know. I am the teacher empowerment leader of the Miserable Teacher Forum. It's always a pleasure to see you. If you are live, I see you. If you're watching the replay, I'm hoping to know you're there. Let us know in the chat. We have been rocking here since January 2024. That might not mean anything to you, but it means a lot to me because I've spent a lot of years knowing I should do this, but really being nervous and afraid and wondering, who I think I am. It's not even that I probably thought that. Honestly, I probably thought that you would say, who does she think she is? And so I'm finally in the place that I know who I am. I know whose I am. I know what I'm supposed to be doing. And so that's why I'm here. So each month we focus on a topic. October's topic is facing the tests. And I know some of you missed the whole live opportunity last week, but I went to my alma mater for homecoming weekend and I was happy to be there. And so I recorded while I was there and I sent it as a YouTube link. So if you missed that, let me tell you, you want to catch it. Because we talked from Isaiah 43 and 2 from the Message Bible. And we talked about the challenges and burdens that we face. Those are tasks. There were 3 points. One was when you are in over your head, I'll be there. You know who that aisle is. When you are in rough waters, you will not go down. And number 3, when you're between a rock and a hard place, it won't be a dead end. So, come on, y'all. Don't miss that one. I always listen to the replay, just like any good teacher. I kind of assess, and I was enjoying that. I thought of some other things that I could have added to that. So even then, I was asking, even though I was remote, I was like, add in the chat. So I'm hoping that we're going to be talking. I'm hoping there'll be some engagement for today. So today is the last Saturday in October, and this means next week we will not have Second Cup. I always give myself Selah, time to reflect and think. But I was really like, man, there was so much in this whole month's topic of facing the test. I was like, do we keep going? Do we stop? So we'll see what the Lord says. But for now, we are talking about dealing with temptations. And, you know, if any of you can give a testimony to a temptation. Now, we are tempted, as they say, on every side. We can just name some things. Go ahead, come on now. You're going to have to communicate in the chat. What kinds of things have tempted you? While you're chatting, while you're, typing in the chat, I'll just talk about yesterday. Yesterday, was I driving to or from work? Oh, no, I took off. It was coming and going to the doctor that, it was this car, and the car was going fast, and then it would go slow, fast and slow, and then I found myself being like, come on, and I was like, you don't even do that. So in that heat of the moment, I was tempted. I was tempted to just lash out at that driver who don't even know me. That driver doesn't even know I'm fussing at him from my car, right? And I'm looking over here like the driver's over there. So that was going to it from the doctor. I was hungry. And I know I shouldn't have spent my money on that fast food. But because of signs, you're traveling, you're hungry, the more you're going, you're just tempted by things, right? Come on. Are y'all telling me stuff in chat? Sometimes I can't even see the chat. But when we think about temptation, we often are thinking only of those things that kind of have a sexual connotation, robbery and theft, cheating on a spouse. Temptations can come from the naked eye. I remember a couple of years ago, I was with friends at a movie, and an actor came across the screen, and one of my friends said, do y'all see that chocolate man coming across the screen? That's a form of temptation. If we claim we ain't never did it, if I sit here and say, shame on you, that would not be right, because that's not true, right? We can be tempted to, and I'm trying not to go ahead of myself, we can be tempted in lots of ways. And so when we think of dealing with temptations, I don't want this to be a conversation about what others do. I want us to make this a conversation about what we do. Okay? That's what I want the focus to be. So for some of you who still need some help with temptations, I thought I'd give you some examples of what students do. And then it might trigger as we transition to what we may do. So we know students, might sign the note, it's supposed to have a parent's signature, but they'll sign it and turn it in. They might come up to your desk, pretend to ask for a question, or go by a neighbor's desk, ask for a question, but wind up slipping a little pencil out because they don't have a pencil for class. They might skip the line in the cafeteria. They might try to take the answers from someone else's test paper, right? So those are some temptations that we might see from our students. But we don't do that, right? We just might slip in the back door when we already know we're 15 minutes late, slip up the back steps, go to our room, and pretend we've been there the whole time. Instead, now, if we was owning that thing, we would just come in the front door and be like, good morning, good morning. But no, if we're slipping up the back steps, then we're feeling like I need to do this. We might, when asked, say that we sent an email to a parent or an administrator when we didn't, but then we'll go up to our room and we'll type it quickly. We might skip the line. You know when it's like a special recognition day for teachers and there's a special lunch that they prepare and they say, okay, come during your planning period to get the food, but you just on a break, or maybe your students went to lunch but your planning period's later, and so you will slip down and try to get, I know what I'm talking about. So we are just as capable of being tempted as the young folks. So let's not, I want to call our attention to 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 12, where it reminds us that, I'll just read. It says, so watch yourself. The person who thinks he can stand against sin had better watch that he does not fall into sin. Verse 13 says, you have never been tempted to sin in any different way than other people. God is faithful. He will not allow you to be tempted more than you can take. But when you are tempted, he will make a way for you to keep from falling into sin. So we're already seeing just from this passage that watch yourself. When I read this, it says, so watch yourself. It made me think of that song. I don't even know who sings it. But watch yourself, okay? Don't assume that you are better than the next person and that you do not sin. The person that's gossiping, the person that is talking ill against someone else, the person that is not being kind, right? Not showing the fruits of the Spirit. Those can be ways that lead us to sin. So, as we are teachers, we're educators, we are working with young people, let's be reminded that we are not above missteps. We are not above stepping outside of what even our normal is. Like I told you with the car, right? I'm like, come on. I don't normally drive like that, but I was enticed by that. I'm not going to say I didn't have control of it, because I could have been driving, the person had gotten slow and fast, and I just was like, oh man. Once I went into the come on, that's where I took it too far, right? So watch yourself. The person who thinks he can stand against sin had better watch that he doesn't fall. What is that saying? It's saying that we are all susceptible to falling. There is no one person, regardless of race, creed, color, nationality, sexual orientation, profession, no one is above the law. And the law in this case is God's law, that we should not sin, right? In verse 13 it says, you have never been tempted to sin in any different way than other people. Others sin, others are tempted. If you believe that that is not the case, then I don't know what rock you're living under. And this is why it's more important that we are opening our heart to God to help us in these areas, right? Still continuing reading. And actually this says, he will not allow you to be tempted more than you can take, right? So be aware that temptations come. The fact of the matter is, what are we doing to avoid us from the fall, right? I'm going to be enticed. Another example I was thinking of was A person, I love going to the thrift store. I always love that. Because things are so inexpensive. Initially, you're like, oh, I can get 3 of these. I can get a couple of these. If you're not mindful, if you're not prayerful, you can wind up buying more than you can afford. You can wind up buying more than you need. You can wind up buying so much. You are on the next episode of Hoarders. So, it's not the fact that buying or shopping is the sin. The enticement there is, it could be, oh my God, I might need that. And since it's so cheap, I'm going to get it. It might be, oh, I don't want to lose out because this is a coupon day, right? Yellow tickets are extra 50% off. Whatever the situation is, it aligns very much like how temptations come and how we can face challenges. We don't want to fall, like they said in verse 12. We don't want to fall, right? So, the rest of verse 13 says, but when you are tempted, he will make a way for you to keep from falling into sin. So, I want you to think about a time that you fell into sin. You're not putting this in the chat. Just think about it. Think about the time. Think about the situation. Think about, were you alone? Were you involved with others? Because you can sin by yourself, right? If, I mean, this might sound petty, but, you know, if a person gives you more change than you're entitled to and you still pull off and you know it, that's it. It's tempting. Some people say, oh, Lord, the Lord bless me. Could be. But it also could be, you should give back the $2 that you got from your change. Right? So think about the time. Think about the situation. Think about the parties. Was there a way out? Was there a way out? Who determines that? That really becomes between you and God. And if there was a way out, what kept you from taking that way out? When I think about the temptations as a teacher, I'm thinking about experiences that I've had where it really, when I paused and thought, most often it was when students' behaviors crossed the line and I wanted to go off. Anybody relate? It could be something simple. The words might be short. They might be simple. They might not have even yelled. They may not have put their hands on you. They may have just... I'm remembering this day that I spoke to a student. I told a student to do something like hall duty. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Hall duty. So-and-so, please clear the halls. Just like I'm talking to you is normally how I would talk to them. Hey, ladies, please clear the halls. Hey, ladies, please clear the halls. And this particular young lady decided she wanted to hug everybody. Hey, girl. She wanted to hug all the people. She wanted to go wave in the teacher's class. Then the teacher don't know. Teacher come out, they chit-chatting. She did all these kinds of things. And then when she finally is moving along, she walks past me. You know that walk. She walks past me. She's like, like, what? What's happening? And so I'm convinced that I said, so-and-so, come here for a second. And she kept walking. So now I'm hot. I have seen people do this. I have not done this to my knowledge. I literally just left. And I was like, you know what? That's not going to be good. Let me move, right? Why? Because I wanted to go off. I wanted to talk about disrespect. I wanted to talk about stay in a child's place, like my sister would say. I wanted to do all of these things that would not have been purposeful for me to do. And I paused. And then I got into my head about, which has become my practice, God, please give me the words and the opportunity. Because sometimes you don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You want to follow up. But you have to be careful in this profession, because a follow-up could look like you're harassing the student. The follow-up could look like you're bullying because you're the adult, right? So this is my prayer always, no matter if it's period. Like sometimes if I feel like something's unsettled, I feel like there's still more I need to say or want to say, I'll say, God, please give me the words and the opportunity. It means if he don't give it, we ain't doing it. Because I'm going to get in trouble, right? Because I might fall out of alignment of what God wants me to do. So as we're thinking about our role as teachers, don't think because we're the adults that we get to just get funky fresh with the students and say and do whatever we want and not see that there might be consequences. The consequences could be, from the school. It could be from the parents. It could be from the student. But we don't want consequences to come from God. He wants us to move in ways that we look like we're his kid and not just some random folks in the building. Because we're not. So, I'm going to clean this up to just tell you how it ended. It was 2 days later. 2 days. And it happened that the young lady and I crossed paths on an empty hallway. And as I saw the young lady coming, I was like, thank you, Lord. Because I knew if I was given the opportunity, because that's what I asked for, then I already had the words. I already knew what I was going to say. And so then I said to her, so-and-so. And the student said, yes, Miss Green-Hodnett. I said, you owe me an apology. She said, I'm sorry. I know. I said, why? She told me why. Because I walked past, you asked me to. And I said, did I do anything to deserve that? She said, no. And I said, okay, we're good. But just know when I'm asking you, I just ask that you respect that. And if in any way I had done something, we could talk about that. She was like, okay, I'm sorry. Y'all get what I'm saying? I got my chance. I got the opportunity. I got the opportunity to even check in. Maybe she thought I was talking to her rude. But that wasn't how it played out. She was just being sassy. And she knew it. Because again, when I said why, she had the answer right there. So we have to trust that we can avoid temptations. Of course, now they're doing a lawn. We have to trust that God will provide us what we need to escape the enticement and the temptations that come our way. So I'm going to move along to what I'm calling the main verses I want to get to. Because in reading, if you look at James chapter 1 verses 5 and 6, it's basically telling you that there's two ways to solve these temptations. There's the natural way and the spiritual way. So I already talked about in that last example both. The natural way would be if I decided I'm going to say, look, young lady, I'm tired of you. You should and taking her to the office and this administrator, she's not in her class or she didn't do what I said. I could have went that route. That's the natural way. That's where I am functioning off of my flesh. Or, because that would have felt good in the moment. Until they told me, I can't stand filling out forms. Please fill out the form. You got to call the parent. I don't want to do that. So the spiritual way, which allowed me to still get the opportunity to talk it through with the student without having to follow the administrative protocols, right? So in verse 5 it says, this is James chapter 1 verse 5 in the New Life Version. If you do not have wisdom, ask God for it. He's always ready to give it to you and will never say you are wrong for asking. So that's me asking, God, please give me the words and the opportunity. Verse 6, you must have faith as you ask him. You must not doubt. Anyone who doubts is like a wave which is pushed around by the sea. You can't doubt it. I didn't doubt it. And so that's where the spiritual piece comes in. You won't get the opportunity to come out. You won't get the words, the proper words. You won't get the forgiving heart if you don't seek that wisdom from God. It's easy to fall into the trap. It's so easy. That's why we must continue to pray and ask God to help us through these matters of temptation. Did I talk to y'all about how that I wanted that Pepsi yesterday? I don't need a Pepsi. But I saw that Pepsi on the menu at that little fast food restaurant. I didn't get water. I got the Pepsi. Now, I didn't drink the whole Pepsi. But there is the idea that 1 Pepsi becomes 2 Pepsis, becomes 8 Pepsis, becomes 8 pounds, becomes 10 pounds. So, again, you gotta stay prayerful and get the guidance and the direction that you need. So, again, God's telling us in that text that you must have faith when you ask for that wisdom that you're seeking. And you can't doubt. You cannot doubt. In verse 12, this is where we're talking about dealing with the temptation, dealing with the enticement. Can I be honest? Sometimes it's enticing to set people up at work. It might be, like, she's always ratting us out. Like, I'm thinking about an administrator situation where the administrator got on people's nerves often. And the one time the administrator did something wrong, that everybody wanted to go and run and tell the principal. And it's enticing to get in that swirl with people, even when it seems good. But it's good for what purpose? So we have to make good, solid, spiritually founded decisions about how we'll let ourselves get caught in information or in situations that battle's not mine to fight. If that administrator deserves to be reprimanded, deserves anything, I shouldn't take measures that work for other people. I should try to take measures that work and align with the way I move. So that is what I'm suggesting that we do, and be careful. I'm trying to give you real life ways that we could get enticed without realizing. How do you get away from that, right? You have to find your plan, your escape. Oh man, I gotta get to the restroom before class. So you slip out of that planning room. You see the person's like, yeah, did you get a chance to talk to the principal? Yeah, all of us are going in to talk to the principal. Here's your chance. Are you going to say, yeah, I'm going to go talk to the principal? Or are you going to say, you know what? I'm still thinking about if that's the way I want to go. You got to feel good about that. You got to feel like that is the approach. You can't let others decide if that's the approach for you. Now, I've been on the other side where I'm like, why isn't that person joining in? What? This looks like it's black and white. But again, it's not for me to judge. It's not for you to judge. Aren't we doing that in this election season? There are some of us who believe that the Democrats are the right way. There are some of us that believe the Republicans are the right way. There are some of us that believe we're not going to vote at all. Some of us that believe in a third-party system. No matter which of these there is, there's always going to be someone on the other side who's saying, I don't see it that way. It is not right for me to judge you. I might hope that you see things the way I see it, but it is not right for me to judge you for a decision you're going to get to make when you go in the polls, right? So, in verse 12, we're going to tie this all together. Oh, my time is run out. Blessed is the man. James chapter 1 verse 12. Blessed is the man who endures temptation. For when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him. Let no one say when he is tempted, I am tempted by God. For God cannot be tempted by evil, nor does he himself tempt anyone. So you can't say God made me do it. They have those shows out now, something made me do it. It can't be God. Okay? So we have to own our stuff. Verse 14 says, but each one is tempted when he is drawn away by his own desires and enticed. How's that feel? We are drawn by our own desires and enticed. If you know a student, I'm going to use an example I've experienced. I had to take over a class. The teacher was no longer there. And there was one student that just was disobedient. Period. He wasn't disobedient in my class alone. He was disobedient in every area of the building, including lunch. If I know the student is disobedient from jump, if you don't know what that means from the beginning. Why am I going to try to establish guidance and guidelines around something that is the outlier? It is not falling with the other things that other student expectations, right? So I have to make some decisions. If I don't, I'm going to be enticed to get into verbal debates, to get into negative exchanges. I'm going to get enticed into writing referrals for no reason. So I have to ask how to approach this. And again, I'm talking about an extreme version. A person that walked the halls constantly. A person that did not respond when people spoke to them. A person that did not greet. You can say good morning all you want. Walk right by you. Come on in the room. Sit down if the person felt like sitting down. I'm talking extreme measures. So in the end, you are very upset when the student calls you out of your name in the class, and when you go to the administrator and they say, you know how Trevor is. You know how Nancy is. You know how Tamika is. You know how Rodrigo is, right? Doesn't matter. When that situation happens, it's not going to feel good because the administrators are going to say that. You know how blank is. I don't think that there's ever really satisfaction in these kind of situations. For me, it became about preservation. What do I mean by that? I mean, I needed to play my cards right so that in the end, when that student came back to my class, so whether or not the student was going to get detention or not, or call home, or suspension, and whatever the possible punishments might be for the situations, they're coming back to my class. So I had to think about whatever I chose to do. It couldn't be a one-time deal because the consequences of what I did was going to remain. So I'd often rather the instances where I gave a little. So if the principal says, well, I'm thinking about having him have 2 days in school detention, I might say, okay, is it okay if I come and visit him in there and check on how he's getting his work done? Yes. And that would be the way I try to make inroads. You won't serve your detention, buddy. But then when I go in there one-on-one with them to say, how, did you get your assignments? Okay, good. Any questions you have? Can I help you with anything? Then they're not seeing me as just the person that put them out the room. But if I get into the which is it's right here on the tips of our tongues, right? That's where God comes in. He comes in, and he then when desire has conceived in verse 15, it gives birth to sin, and sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. That's what I'm talking about. I don't want there to be a death in the relationship between me and the student. So I have to find ways, most often is to hold my tongue, to watch my manner, because I also don't want them to think I'm a punk. Y'all know what I'm talking about? Because if I have that posture, then they might think, oh, this worked, I could do this again. So see how even in our work we are tempted. We are tempted to, I remember as a young teacher, maybe 5-6 years in, I think I had called home, and something that the student was really looking forward to, the parents canceled. It was probably the first time I had ever really seen it. The mom was like, oh, he was supposed to go roller skating this weekend. He's not going roller skating because he was disrespectful to you. I was like, whoa. This is powerful. Like, this is really powerful. And it made me careful about how I use that power. Because I could jack up some kids' afternoons, weekends, if I called the parent. So it can be tempting. Those teachers that go, because all I got to do is call your parent and say, blah, 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 and the stuff don't be true. Be very careful. That's not really pleasing to God. It's really like setting the children up for failure. It's creating negative relationships with the children where they can't trust you. They can't, trust you with their heart. They can't feel safe if we use those kinds of tactics, because that's what it is, those kinds of tactics that I'm sending the message of, sit down, I'm going to call your parent, tell your parent that you this, to do that. Please call the parents, follow through. I was just talking with someone yesterday, and she was saying what the teachers are not doing is they're not following through. They're constantly saying, I'm going to call your parent, I'm going to call your mom, I'm going to call your dad, I'm going to call your grandma, I'm going to call, and then they don't. The other thing that she said she notices, this is one of the teacher friends I have, she said she also notices that they are changing rules. So yesterday you could put your jacket on the back of your chair. And then, by noon tomorrow, you had to keep the jacket on the hook. But you had them coming in all year with the jacket behind the chair, and then all of a sudden it was on the hook, and then you're upset that some students have it behind the chair, some students have it on the hook. And that's kind of what happens when we're not consistent. Okay? So I went over, y'all, but this is because I really put too many scriptures. But I really just want to lay the foundation of a couple of things. And that is that we are all susceptible to the temptation. That there are two ways to be tempted. There's natural ways and there's spiritual ways. And we also just want to remind us that there are ways of dealing with temptation, and we need to make sure that we watch out and not think that we are in some way not susceptible to being tempted or enticed. And that, as it began to say in 1 Corinthians 10:13, that, everybody gets tempted. And even in getting tempted, God will make a way for you. But go and seek God. Seek the wisdom that He has to offer us. He will make a way out of escape. He will give us a way of escape. But if we don't use that wisdom, He will always be ready to give it. And nope. That's not what I'm trying to be. But when we're tempted, He will make a way for you to keep. Nope. That's not the word. I'm sorry, y'all. I was on a roll. It's 15. Remember, I'm going back to 14. Oh, Lord. But each one of us is tempted when he's drawn away from his own desires and enticed. Then, when desire has conceived, it gives birth to sin. And sin, when it is full grown, brings forth death. Please bring and speak life in your classroom. Speak life over yourself before you leave in the morning. Put your hands across your head. Put your hands together. Get on your knees. Say, oh God, let me be a light unto the people. Let me be an example of your goodness. In Jesus' name, amen. Hey, right? Try that. And then when you are in a space where it feels dark, in a staff meeting, you're the principal, you're the administrator, you're the assistant, you're the counselor, right? And you walk in a class and you feel that the energy is low. You still can be a light. When you are the administrator or you are the teacher and you are seeing a conflict between two people, whether it's student to student or student to teacher, and there is a possibility that death will fall quick, you can be the light. But please know, do not fall prey to temptation that you can escape from. Okay? Ask God for wisdom. Ask Him for help. Ask Him for His continued guidance in our way. So, that's it for today. I hope you got something out of it. Please share in the chat. Please engage. Please invite friends, family, loved ones who are committed to this work as educators. I am so appreciative of you. Have a great day. And we'll be back the first Saturday in November with Second Cup. Be well. God bless.